Hi guys, Dorothy here, professional astrologer. Today I'm going to talk to you about the week of September 3rd. We have a lot going on. Yes, I'm in my backyard. My living room didn't change. I have a microphone on with a buffer, so hopefully it won't be too awful noisy here. It's Labor Day weekend when I'm recording this. So we're going to talk about September 3rd, the week of, right? What's going on? Here's the overall picture. We have the moon going through signs, of course. We'll talk a little bit about that. We have Mercury and Mars making a really difficult aspect with each other. Peaks on Wednesday, but it's building to that point. Mercury, another day later, enters the sign of Virgo. Saturn is stationing to go direct now, but he's not going to move very far for quite a while, right? I'll tell you about that. We also are in the balsamic lunar phase, which leads us to the new moon phase on Sunday. And Sunday, is it the 9th? Yes. Happy birthday to my son. The Sunday, the 9th, Venus also enters the sign of Scorpio. So there is a lot going on this week. I'm going to tell you all about it. I know that was a big old mouthful of astrologies, and if you don't know what that means, don't go anywhere. I'm going to tell you about it. I'll be right back. All right, what does Monday look like? This is the day most people travel in this country, or if you're not traveling, you will have family and friends around. The moon's in the sign of Gemini, and it's making a couple of difficult aspects during the day, it's midday or so, to Jupiter and one to Pluto. It's a quincunx. When the moon is in Gemini, we have to express how we feel through words, through emotion. Let me get my balance here. I'm standing on my steps. Through balance, right? We have to express our feelings and our emotions, but when they're in a quincunx aspect to these two planets, it means that there are adjustments that need to be made. So today, while it's not typically an office day for a lot of corporate businesses, that means communications will be delayed, right? So if you have information, things you need to share with others, especially through talking and communicating, this can be a day we just have to have patience and we need to wait a little while. Yeah, I know Mercury's not retrograde. He's not the only cause of things having trouble when we're trying to get a point across. So if you have something to say, you need to share some information with somebody. If things seem to get all fouled up, just wait a day or two before you try to regroup and put more information back in, okay? Now, as far as driving and traveling around, this is typically a tough travel day for a lot of people since it's a holiday. And with the moon in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign, all about moving and traveling, the hard aspects it does make, you might want to get an early start, pack your patience. That's what Monday's all about. In the middle of the day on Tuesday, the moon does enter the sign of Cancer. No, actually it's at 8 in the morning, East Coast time. The moon enters Cancer, and Cancer is how we're feeling, how we want to be nurtured, we want to be home. And a lot of people go back to school on this day, especially the younger students. The college students are already back, but the younger, like my grandkids, they go back to school on Tuesday. That means mom's home, cleaning the house, nesting, or just sitting there watching a TV show because she's got some quiet and some silence for a little while. Beginning of the school year, it's when we kind of want to nest. So however you express that, it's going to vary from person to person. Throughout the day, I mean, the moon in Cancer will make a sextile to Uranus. What time is that? Midday, and then opposite Saturn, so we can feel very innovative. But then it also inspires us to get back to everyday normal routine. That's Tuesday. All along, we've had Mercury coming and to make a hard aspect with Mars. Mercury is at 28, 29 degrees of Leo. I think it's at 29. Mars is also at 29 degrees of Capricorn. They're in a quincunx. This is a difficult aspect, and it's about making adjustments. So we may feel very frustrated. And that's why I was saying about Monday that we could feel frustrated if we're trying to communicate. It may take a couple of days. And those few days we will feel a little bit better once Mercury gets into Virgo, and that happens at 10:39 p.m. East Coast on Wednesday night. So let's just give it a day, give it 24 hours to pick up some speed. But now that Mercury is in his own sign of Virgo as of late Wednesday night, September 5th, this is when we can finally get down to picking up those details and really focusing and sorting the information. Virgo is all about sorting the information that we've been gathering over a period of time. That period of time will vary from person to person. We've had a lot of retrograde planets this summer. A lot. Saturn's going direct tomorrow, the 6th. So it's stationing right now as well, which means it's not moving. That's a focus point. So with Mercury moving into Virgo on Wednesday, over the next 3 weeks, we are sorting and putting things into place that we have been acquiring information about all summer long with all of those retrograde planets. I like this. The sun's also in Virgo, so that's very helpful. And we're coming to a Virgo new moon, which will be on the 9th, even more helpful. So while Mercury is moving through Virgo all this week, and we are working through the lunar phase, which is a waning lunar phase, we are still assimilating and putting details together for ourselves, especially over what we've learned since June, the whole summer, June, July, August. And we're starting to sort it out. It's not sorted instantly. If you pull out a box of things you want to go through, you know there's different piles. This is what we're going to be doing all week long. All right? Getting back into school routines, getting back into work routines, getting back into the home routine of what we spend most of the year doing, especially when we work and kids are in school. So let's move on to the 6th. So Wednesday's the day where we're like trying to figure out how to organize these things, and if you can't, you can't. But just know, pull out that tub from the closet and say, I'm going to work on that later in the week. All right, that's really the beginning of what Wednesday looks like. That's the beginning of all these processes that are going on for us. All right, let me look at my notes. Wednesday, the 6th, Saturn goes direct. He's been retrograde since April. It's at 7:09 a.m. East Coast time, but it's going to take him a few weeks before we're even going to recognize or feel a shift there, because this planet is far away from us, and from our viewpoint here, it doesn't look like it's moving for quite a while. So we're not going to feel this instantaneously. Some people, maybe you will, but for the most part, there's no way we can. We can't feel this instantaneously because the planet isn't moving. But what we have been feeling over the last week to 2 weeks, and we'll feel for another couple of weeks, is while Saturn is at 2 degrees of Capricorn, wherever that is in your chart, this is where you're really focusing hard on building your reputation and setting up a really strong foundation. Okay? This is an important thing to focus on. Do I need more education? Do I need to step up and be a teacher? You know, taking your authority and really working with it and going with it. That's what this Saturn energy is all about, all right? And especially as it stations. It's right on my moon, so it's like, holy Toledo. My 0-degree moon. It's in my 9th, so I'm looking, I've got new classes running, guys, so they start in September. So come check it out. If you've always wanted to learn astrology, you get to learn right from a source. Not the source, but a source. One of many. All right, let's move on. Let's see, what else do we have? I'm going to move on to the 7th, which is Friday. And we are now in the balsamic lunar phase, which is the 8th phase out of 8 before it's new on Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. Balsamic is all about spending quiet time if you can, or where you can. Find that period in space in your day where you can meditate, even 15-20 minutes meditate, so you can get into a clearer space. That's what the balsamic lunar phase is all about. On this day, we have Mercury in Virgo making a trine aspect to Uranus and a trine aspect to Saturn. This is a grand trine in Earth with Mercury. This is fantastic for setting up a foundation and a structure. It's a three-pointed, like a three-pointed stool, it's a triangle, it's a grand trine. Sorry, I'm on stairs. I gotta be careful I don't fall. I'm leaning on a railing here. But needless to say, we gotta have our stability. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I've got my 2 legs and 1 arm stabilizing myself right now. That's a really good representation of what we want Friday to be. So Friday will bring us more of those details thanks to Mercury in Virgo. It will bring us more of those details and how we can take thoughts and ideas that may have been put aside or on the back burner. Maybe we can bring them forward now, because again, with the Sun in Virgo for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we've been looking at the details. Now that Mercury is in Virgo, coming to meet with the Sun, not yet, but soon, we are really, the world, the universe is asking us to sift through what's important. This Mercury Grand Trine on Friday helps us to really set a strong foundation. Saturn's direct. Uranus is retrograde, but that's all right. He'll come back in a couple of months and trigger this point again. So it's really going to be important that you set some strong goals right now. All right. I know the moon is balsamic, so you're going to, we don't want to set them until the moon is new. So write down what it is you think you want to work out during Friday with that Grand Trine, okay? Did that make sense? I hope so. Now, Saturday the 8th, let me move on since there's still more to come. The moon enters Virgo still as a balsamic phase, so that means we are going to be able to see the things we need to let go, all right? That's it. Really plain, really simple, lots of details. Venus and Mars are in a square right now. Venus is in Libra. Mars is still at the end of Capricorn. This can be a little bit of stress. I haven't talked anything about relationships yet, but this could be a little bit of stress in regards to a relationship. Venus in Libra is all about relationships and finding the balance in our finances or in what we value. But typically when Venus and Mars are connected, it is usually about relationships and the drive that we have in our long-term relationships. Venus is getting ready to change signs. She'll do that on Sunday, but she's also going to be retrograde at this point, right? She's going to retrograde back into Libra later in the year, and we'll talk about that as it comes along. But in the meantime, we have on Saturday, and it's like the exact aspect is at 4:38 p.m. East Coast, of Venus squaring Mars. Again, lots of opportunity to problem solve and to troubleshoot if you need to do that in a relationship. And only if. Don't create a problem if there isn't one, okay? So this is Saturday afternoon. Now, the final day I'm going to talk about is Sunday the 9th. Venus in Scorpio is intense feelings. Venus, as a recap, what we value, what we love. It can be our finances. It can be our love relationships. So let me talk about both of them in the sign of Scorpio. Venus will be in Scorpio. She retrogrades, so she peaks back into Libra in October, but she will be basically in this same area, this Scorpio area, be all the way into January. So she's going to spend a long time in this sign, and that means we have a long time. Usually it's only 3 weeks in a zodiac sign for her. We have a long time to work on these issues. So these are some of the things that may come up. They all don't have to come up. Remember that. These are all potential things, not necessarily meant for everybody. Venus in Scorpio finances. This has a lot to do with really digging into your finances. If you've not saved, or if you've invested into shady deals, these things can fall apart, or at least they're exposed, so you have an opportunity to fix it, work on it, especially if you didn't know about it. But if you had a feeling it was a shady deal, it could very well fall apart at this point. Venus in Scorpio is also in the financial world, also has a lot to do with inheritances. So it's not going to be the case for everybody, right? But you might have to deal with inheritance issues or concerns, or just deal with inheritances. And then it is also about money that we get to use that's not our own. So there's those outside resources. Has a lot to do with credit and the debt that you owe. So these things, especially while Venus is retrograde, can come up, all right? Helps us just to work through stuff. So it doesn't have to be a bad deal, but it can be something that you have to work on. Now, let's go to the love relationships. Venus in Scorpio is very passionate and very intense. It is those intimate bedroom things that we know about as adults. Let's keep in this G-rated. So think of that. That will be something that can come up for you, all right? If you're in an intimate relationship with somebody, you might want to go to the next level, whatever that means to you. Or if you're intimate with somebody, or you're in love with somebody and they've broke your heart and you're not interested in them, they're not interested in you anymore, you may have a hard time over these few months letting it go. Or vice versa. Somebody may have a hard time letting you go if you're not interested in the relationship going any further than it is, okay? So there's a lot of intense and deep emotions and feelings that go on with Venus in Scorpio. And since before she moved into Scorpio, she was squaring off with Mars in Capricorn, so that has an awful lot to do with long-term relationships. If you need to know more about that, you know where to find me, because this is a very personal, deep, intense thing, and I can't go into all the details because it's very public. This isn't just a private channel, right? It goes to TV stations, and I don't want to cross any lines, so you know how to get a hold of me. So that's enough of that. Let's move on to the final thing for this week, and that would be the new moon in Virgo. It's at 17 degrees of Virgo. It is at 2:01 p.m. East Coast time. Let me put my book down. And so when the moon is new in Virgo, again, this is when we can set goals based on the details that we've been working on. And I've already been telling you about this whole week, how we're making those piles and deciding what we're doing with our things, and or what we're doing with the thoughts and ideas, the projects that we've been working on, and really allowing the things that we want in our lives, the things that have value in our lives. This is, honestly, this is like an energy upgrade. When we find things that, when we shift to things that are very different and we become different, then our world around us becomes different, and we start to shed things that don't and that no longer serve us. So while we're in the Virgo time of year, we're going to be focusing a lot on that, on what am I keeping and what am I letting go of. What will serve me in my life, especially day to day. If I never use it, it can go away. All right? Lots of details. I'm going to leave you with that. That's a long one for me. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me, nhastrologer.com. And thank you for joining me in my backyard, and I hope it wasn't too awful noisy. I'll find out when I get to editing. All right, guys. Blessings. Namaste.